Wow, it's taken a moment. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. Tonight we get to sit back and I've always seen a review of Britt's work for the PowerPoint she put together. Oh my God, I'm so impressed. It's going to be a delightful night, and I'm so glad you're here, Britt. I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to turn it right over. It's good to be in y'all's company. Britt Kaufmann lives in the mountains of Western North Carolina. We are so grateful that she has Starlink and electricity and can be with us tonight. Her poetry and prose have appeared in various publications, and I want you just to listen to this range. Scientific America, J Journal, New Writing on Justice, Anabaptist World, Soft Star, Cosmic Daffodil, Kakalak Poetry Anthology, multiple issues, Main Street Rag, Western North Carolina Magazine, Western North Carolina Woman, and also the Mennonite and the Pedestal Magazine, among others. As a founding planner of the Carolina Mountains Literary Festival, it's been a part of her yearly cycle, and she remains involved peripherally. I think that's where I first met you in person, was there. Oh, that was one of the best experiences ever. And if you've never been to that festival, put it on your calendar. September, right?
Yes. Yes. Always the first
It's
weekend
hosted
or
Eve.
second weekend.
Okay, good to know. So, you've got time to plan it, and Western North Carolina could use our, visiting dollars for sure. And the town itself is amazing. She also hosted Eve's Night Out, which was a monthly open mic poetry reading in Burnsville for a decade pre-pandemic. Her chapbook of poems, Belonging, was published by Finishing Line Press. You've got some pressmates here. And Midlife Calculus is her debut full-length manuscript, out from Press 53 in 2024. You can get your copy. I'll put a link in the chat section. Welcome, Britt. We're so glad you're here.
Well, I am very happy to be here. And this is a fun, quirky little collection. And so I find that it works really well if I can also show slides um, while I do my reading. And I like to say that the only thing worse than a dad joke is a mom joke, because she will bring diagrams to explain why it's funny. Um, so, except, this week being what it is, I didn't necessarily choose my fun and funny poems. For those of you who don't know, I was an English teacher way back when. Then I was a stay-at-home mom for a very long time. And then I got back involved in the schools subbing and have subsequently turned into a math tutor. So after being a math tutor for several years, I decided I was going to take calculus on my own, just for the fun of it, midlife crisis of sorts. Because I had been a math tutor for several years, I was like, okay, my brain's primed for this. If I'm ever going to do this that I've always wanted to do to prove that I could, I got to do it now. So one of my colleagues, the AP calculus teacher, only had 3 kids in the class that year. So he added me to the Google Classroom so that I got all the assignments. And so I just kept, and I would take the quizzes after school or during lunch, or I'd set aside time and take the tests, and basically worked through most of the curriculum that year. And what happened was that new language made some kind of strange connection, and these poems just kept coming out in my in my notebooks. And I just kind of kept them there and kept them there and kept them there. And then finally, one day, I collected them all together to see what I could do with them. And that ended up turning into Midlife Calculus. So I'm going to start tonight with the poem that most blends my English teacher and math tutor sides, called Coinciding Plot Lines. coinciding lines, as you can see over here, are ones that are like right on top of each other. It's essentially the same line. Coinciding plot lines. We long to be the hero of the story, though the fiction is what we imagine. Time suspended in fairy tale futures, snow globe epilogues of existence. The bulk of the book is inevitably rigorous study, an accumulation of bullies, mean teachers, mentors, the labored acquisition of fickle friends, grueling tests and trials, and escalating disasters. If we could, we would detour to the denouement, simplify, constantly choose the quietude of being a foil. And I feel kind of like that's where I was then, deciding to take these classes and being in the thick of things and it being miserable. But that's inevitably like what these books are. And I feel like that's kind of where we are, many of us this week, is we are in, especially after Helene, one crisis after another. The denouement is not in sight. And so as I work through parts of the book, I'm going to read the shortest poem in the book next, because it's very fitting, followed by the longest poem, which also has a new take. So the shortest poem is right here. You can read it along with me if you like. We always study the X and Y planes in Math 1, in which case you're studying domain and range. And so here is domain. Forget range for now, as any more situations only go sideways. And the longest poem was it. This poem came together from a lot of disparate parts, and all of them kind of kept haunting the back of my brain. And now reading this poem, especially the ending, means something else completely different in a new way that I had never intended. This is one of those poems I think that aged well already, and that is Constant. If you have the book, it's on page 16, if you guys like to follow along and have it. Constant. The only constant is change. In any function, the constant is the number hanging out alone, no variable at its side. It is what it is. Until calculus, when C becomes fixed but unknown. The coach's wife says to him, "Nothing changes if nothing changes." He says nothing, but nods. Always plot time on the x-axis. It's the independent variable, always marching on, until it isn't. Like the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, except it might not be. I remember the non-trad who thought she could effectively argue against non-Euclidean geometry to my old math professor, both of whom then were younger than me now. How flat our first knowledge becomes. My future physics professor daughter returns from the equator where she learned the Pachamama hug, a spiral, like how they see time. Each moment accord with harmonics of past and future. What did they learn so close to the sun, watching the stars, which is seeing time? We learn orbits as if the sun didn't also fly. The helix of our DNA more akin to our planet's corkscrew through the dark. I stare at images from the newest telescopes at the planetarium in my Appalachian mountains, lost and dizzy, trying to fathom the immense void. Alone in the universe is really alone in time. And what of the twins? One went to space, traveled so fast, he became measurably younger. Surely that plot twist shows on a graph, crumpled into a ball, tossed in a trash can so he could keep his birthright. How precious this tiny world we burn, a magi's gift. Watch chain and tortoise shell become slag and ash. For what purpose this rain of myrrh? The next poem that I thought I had marked, which has vanished. Kind of also seems fitting. It was a piece of advice that I had gotten once when your feelings get really big and you're not sure if they're your feelings, which are valid, or if they are based on something. So the piece of advice is the title of this poem. If things feel unfair, count. So I tally, captive in my hyperbolic spiral, slashes upon slashes, horns, teeth, and claws. My mind, an old dry erase board, holds ghost images in defiant silence, no matter the dutiful custodian's absolutions. And this actually kind of came from a true story in which they swapped out the whiteboard in my room with one of the really bad ones in another room. And so I came in one fall and I was like, what is going on? And like you can see like week after week of my stuff just all piled up, my scribblings, and I can't get it clean. Like I have been down every Reddit rabbit hole trying to find, I've done the WD-40, like everything. And yes, I have the whiteboard that you cannot erase. And that is my mind. The next poem, this is something I put together because numbers have different, we talk about numbers different ways. When I work with math students, we talk about what's the difference between, like, is math invented or is it discovered? And it really is a combination of both. Like this and this is this, like that's just the way it is. But to name this two and to name this three and to create a plus sign or an equal sign, those parts we invented. So we have invented these different names for kinds of numbers, and you can kind of see them. And the name of this poem is Irrationals. And you can see where that is here. So pi would be the most famous irrational number because it's a decimal, and then it never repeats, and it goes on and on and on forever. And this poem is based on a girl from the high school, and I read it to her and she approved of it. And she would always come up to me during the day. She was about 6'2". She is not a flighty person, She is a serious person, but she would always get told by male teachers, and particularly to smile. Like they wanted to see her happy, but they wanted her to smile. And that got on her last nerve. And so she would always report to me, like, he told me to smile again. So irrationals is partially for her. The reason for the rage is not imagined, but real. And just because it's not understood doesn't make it complex. Smile. Don't make a scene. Be nice about slights. Naturally builds up over time, says, know your place. Slick as oil, or bless her heart. We want it to end, period. But it keeps on. And there is pie going on and on. So there were times when I was working on my calculus and beating my head against a brick wall and questioning what was I doing and why, that I felt like giving up. I felt like throwing up my hands and walking away. And that's some of what I've been feeling the last couple days. So I will read Overdue Assignments, which is one of my few prose poems. I tried to work this into some kind of line and line break, and it would not go. So here it is, Overdue Assignments. When I pull from my pocket the world's tiniest violin to play Your Heart Should Bleed for Me, all I can see are the effing mirrored integral signs reflected across the y-axis of strings to remind me, back it up. Screw this tiny thing, dilated several sizes too small for the sound I long to emit. I need a body of a cello, or a body like the sepia-toned photos of bare women sitting with their backs to the camera, F-holes symmetrically tattooed on the curves of their waists to widening hips, their spines upright, holding their heads up on good shoulders. I wrap my pencil to silence the orchestra tuning up, spin it around, and commence the whispered rhythms of solving problems. So I have had these images in my head. And so today I was like, oh, you should probably just find one to show people. So I think this is the one that I always remembered. And yes, it looks just like a cello. And you can see the y-axis here. And I always think the F-holes look like the integral signs for your antiderivatives when you're doing calculus. I have a needle phobia, so I will not ever get these tattoos, but I do think they're lovely. One of the things that has happened in Yancey County, for those of you who came on late and didn't hear our earlier conversation, is that we are still not back in school. We will go back on the 18th. And I am quite certain that with the accelerated timeline, I will be busy and I will have some intense days. And so I will share this one because inevitably, even though they will have missed a quarter of a year of school, I will get this question. Series and rotations. A broken record. A broken record. When will we use this in real life? Drop the needle on this blues song. You cannot use knowledge never learned, though it can be used against you. And in your ignorance, you will depend on the mercies or the lack thereof of those calculating their own interests who do master numbers. For math and money are links in chains of power and oppression. And I think looking at the time, I probably have room for one more. So when I was putting the collection together, I wanted a nice kind of narrative arc from me beginning, to take calculus kind of through a school year of tutoring, all while processing, my own kids about to leave an empty nest. And so I was working on the order with my editor, and I messed up. I thought I had an odd number of poems, but I had an even number of poems. And I needed an odd number of poems because I had to have z-score of 0 right smack dab in the middle of the book. The z-score, when you look at a normal distribution curve, are these numbers right here at the bottom. So the poem is called Z-score of 0. So that means like right here, right where your mean or your average is. And then this would be 1 standard deviation above the mean, 2 standard deviations, or 1 standard deviation below, or 2. And so, this being midlife calculus, I needed that right there. And then this is the poem that was picked up by Mathematical Association of America's publication that they sent to like most college professors. So I'll show you how they did it for their April poetry edition. I knew Pat would like this because it's got a cat in it. So this is Z-score of 0. It is normal from this vantage point to look back, not with regret, but to evaluate how much I may have deviated from my dreams, the standards I set for myself. So I might stop on the way back down at those lookouts I missed on my short-sighted climb. I mean to lengthen my hiking poles here, walk this gradual decline with measured intention, find continued purpose to rise each morning, other than the green-eyed cat's insistent mew.
I'm not even unmuted, and I was sitting here saying so much. I love that poem for this ending, and I love that it forced it forced you to, do another poem, and the visuals of it are just fabulous. And it's easy with it's almost easy to miss the musicality and the craft in your work, Britt, because I think so many of us are blown away by the fact that you can math, to be honest. But it's just thank you so much. And everybody, if y'all want to unmute, I know people have some questions. The chat section, don't try to worry about getting into it, Britt. I will send it to you because I really don't want you to miss all the things. Yes, it was a brilliant reading. It was gorgeous. Cindy just said, yeah. Does anybody have questions? And I loved hearing the backstories. Thank you for that, Britt, because you answered a lot of the things that I was really curious about. Yeah, Judy just wrote such amazing and unique metaphors. Yeah.
I'd be sitting in math class and I'd be like, Oh, oh, that's a good pun. Oh, I can, like I can think about that two ways. Like the Greek letter that you use for standard deviation is mu.
Oh,
So I was like, oh, I've got to get the cat mew in this poem, like somehow.
Wow.
That was lost
So,
on
like,
some of us. Sorry.
That went over
no,
some
like
of our heads.
I don't expect it to. Like that was always my intention is because let me tell you, trying to get mathy poems past literary editors is um, not easy. But I wanted there to be something where if you didn't get the math at all, it was still a lovely poem.
Yeah.
But I wanted math people who typically feel like I don't get it. Like when they read poetry, I wanted them to be like, oh, ha, 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 and like to find the Easter eggs. And I wanted to like bring like the two sides of myself together, but also to get more math people to give poetry a chance. And then also, because I'm a tutor, give me a chance when I'm doing poetry to like remind you a little bit of some math.
Mission accomplished. Fabulous. I mean, just fabulous.
wonderful. And you do a great job of taking those two very separate pieces, and then they're these really spot on commentaries about life in that are not, obvious or obviously stated. They're subtle, they're very poetic, but there they are. It's really beautiful.
Britt, may I ask a question?
Oh,
I just wonder
absolutely.
if you know, I mean, it's so unusual to have somebody, connect these two often totally disparate spheres for most people, really. Do you have any models? I mean, do you know any other people? I mean, I have a vague recollection of some people in the sciences who occasionally, wrote from an intimate knowledge of some area of science and then managed to bridge the divide in some way. But I couldn't tell you their names right now. I just think they may exist. But did you have any models of people who bridge this kind of gap? Because it seems to me, especially in your case, just an extraordinarily unusual and intriguing, thing to do. So,
Well, when I was doing this collection, I was really trying to preserve my sense of play. So they were coming out in the margins of my math notebook, and I left them there. Like I did not revise them. I did not edit them. I just left them there, and I, just to like crack myself up. Or could I take all of the different, methods for um, for calculus or the different like the different rules? Like, could I work them all into a poem? Like it was a mental exercise and it was playful. Um, and so it wasn't, and I was like, ooh, I might have something here. But I was like, don't do nope, just play. And so I just kept playing until I felt like I might have enough for a full length collection. And then I took a writing weekend. Um, and I took all of my math notebooks from the different classes and from calculus, and I went through and I transcribed them, and then I started editing. But I didn't even start sending out individuals until I had the whole collection,
wow.
because I knew that as soon as I started getting rejections, I would be like, nobody likes this. It's not worth it. Like, like that's where I would be. And I really, really wanted to do a book and just try. And so when I had the whole book together, then I was like, okay, I have accomplished my goal. I have done the thing. And I didn't let myself get derailed. And then it was just a matter of, could I find somebody who got it? Like, could I find somebody? And at Press 53, Kevin handed it off to one of his imprints, to Chris Forrest, who happened to have been a math guy first. And I was like, okay, like there it was. Like it was not like like yes, I had all of the different kind of rejections and all that kind of stuff, but I happened to find my math person who got it.
So glad you did.
Yeah, me too.
Imagine another trajectory.
Cindy?
Yes, Cindy.
I've got a question. Britt, I was reading through your bio and I saw that you wrote a book or have some connection to the Civil War. And was it Burnsville or something? Is that
So I wrote a play based on the actual history of Burnsville. So during the Civil War, toward the end in the spring, when the bread riots were all happening, well, let me tell you how the history books tell it. They say the men went in and stole blah, 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 blah. But the day before, the women. And I was like, oh, wait, no, we're writing this in the wrong order. I was like, the women did it first. The women went in and stole 40 bushels of wheat.
Mm.
And then the next day, the men went in and guess what the men stole?
Booze?
Oh,
Guns and bacon.
I was interested in this. I just like you embraced calculus, which I would never ever do. My brain would explode. I did get into the Civil War, and I think it's relevant for these times. But back then, I did it innocently, just wanting to know the history. And I went to every meeting of the New York City Round Table. We discussed the Civil War. I became like, I was on their book review staff, so I reviewed books about the Civil War.
Wow.
My English, my literary skill. And I was on the board of directors for years of the Civil War Roundtable. Now I want nothing to do with them, but I realize how misogynist the group was. I was one of the only women, and also there was one African American person out of hundreds of people who's out there, and and I realize now how controversial it was. At the time, to me, it was just history, and I wanted to learn, and I still get emails from them to attend the meetings,
Well, mine was my play was based on Burnsville history. I wrote a romantic comedy about it, though. So
read it.
I played a little loose.
I'd be curious to read it.
Oh, well, if you put your email in, I'll send it to you.
Oh,
That's awesome.
oh well, no, I'll buy a copy.
Oh, it's a play. You can't buy a copy.
Oh. All right.
So I will put the book, speaking of buying a copy, I will put again the link to Press 53. Britt, if they wanted to get a signed copy, could they reach out to you for that? Is that something you would be able to do?
Potentially. Yeah, I haven't done that yet because like the launch happened in the same month as Helene, and so I've been a little.
I know. I still can't imagine. We should have another book launch for you just because.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's
also,
hard.
Put in the if you want to, I think I have this. Nope, that's not the right thing. I thought I had the list for if you go to Plothound Books, that's the bookstore in Burnsville. If you want to buy it through them, that's always
that's a great idea.
Gesture. And I thought I had that
That's
link copied, but apparently
I
I
will
didn't.
find that link.
It's bookshot.org.
I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I always get there through plothoundbooks.com or whatever it is, and then look it up through there. But that way because they're still closed at this point, and that helps Ronnie
Yeah.
Lundy out.
Yeah, I'll just put that email address in there.
That-
So I've been thinking what would be a great thing because you have such a keen mind that likes to find a detail, like the women went first, that we should start a thing that we say, what's Britt's next class? And we just send you to classes to see what your brain does with the information. Because that's kind of how you, I think, it's such a wonderful interaction. To me, a lot of times when I get a chance to know a poet a little bit better, what I love is that there is a creative, curious, bright mind behind your work that really pulls things together. And so I love the idea of sponsoring Britt, go to this class and see what happens, because I just think it would be magic, to be honest.
That's
That
really
sounds
great.
like a lot of fun to me.
If you're down for it, I think we ought to just, we could just come up with some things and say, have you thought about this? I mean, because I just think your brain is the type that would just play and find something. And I love that you didn't censor that initial kind of movement. And I related to the idea of sending the poems out. If you had gotten rejection, it might have silenced that exploration. So I think it was fascinating that you created the entire book before you sent it out.
I do too. Self-knowledge.
What's Britt's next class? We could have, just a survey, just Survey Monkey. Have one right in. I was trying to see if I missed any questions in the chat section. If I did, please just jump in.
Let's save the chat.
I see that, Shamala, you put in a neat article from the Atlantic. Could you talk about that?
Sorry, I was muted too. It's actually a collection of poems called A Space Child's Mother Goose. It's like puns and jokes about relativity and stuff. I don't entirely know how whether it communicates, because mathematicians love puns, and this was, like if you're talking about I don't know, differential equations and eigenvectors, you hit a particular resonance, you hit a particular frequency and a bridge will vibrate, So when we were grad students, we thought it was funny to be in the elevator going up and down to classes and all start jumping up and down in sync and chant eigenvector, 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 which was great fun until the day that the elevator started to shake and we were like, oops, maybe we don't want to do that. But A Space Child's Mother Goose is very old, but it was a fun collection. But I like Britt's better for bringing the poetry, really, because it's not just play with language. It's like, doing the poet's job of saying something as well. And you using math to do that, but you're doing the poet's job.
Wow, that's a very good.
But I wanted to just share that.
Thank you. I knew I wanted to go to that because I felt like you had more behind it. So thank you for talking about that. That's the other thing I thought of, Britt, when you were talking about like the language of math, that some of it's discovered and some of it's invented. And I was thinking it's almost as if these poems were here inside you and they were just waiting for the language of math to come and connect with. And I find that interesting. And is that how it felt? Did it feel like, it sounds like just with the notes, things were hitting as you were learning?
Yeah. One of the poems that I often do is like every year when we would study the circle, we would study like chords and major arcs and minor arcs. And every year in Math 3, I would just hear like Leonard Cohen's Alleluia in my head, like with the chord and the major and the minor.
Yeah.
And I was like, finally, after a couple of years, I was like, I just have to write this verse. Because I would get the song stuck in my head every year. And so, well, now I have a cat who's on my book.
I know, I was just gonna say, it's like your cat said, okay, cat.
This is Orla. If you have ever watched Dairy Girls on Netflix, the really strange one, Orla, yeah, that's where she got her name.
Okay.
It's weird.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, Abigail 1 700 is the one that I would hear in Math 3 every time. I'll read it or I'll sing it.
Yes, please.
The notes she took on the secant chord while David slept and softly snored revealed their circumspective meanings to her. So despite her anxious testing nerves, the major arcs and the minor arcs and the major curves, she broke a helpless cycle. Alleluia. So like,
Wow.
this is what I'm like, it's kind of good having me in class to like help students, but on the other hand, it's like, you never know what I'm doing over in the back of the class.
Oh, that's really great.
I love it. See, and that's what I mean by a keen mind. We need to feed that mind so it can keep doing stuff.
Having you as a
I
math
love
teacher
it.
would have done a lot for kids because math is easy if you think it's easy and it's hard if you don't. And if the teacher's having fun, the kids learn something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have found like part of what this was too is like when you're working with students who really struggle in math, like I was always using metaphors and stories to tell them to help them learn the math. And then those things kind of turned into the poems sometimes.
That's interesting.
Just lovely. Just lovely. Well, I feel like we have hit like where there's not a question, so we can just say thank you so much, Britt. And I love the PowerPoint, the mom jokes with the graphics to explain them. That's gonna stick with me because that is very true. Thank you so very much.
Well,
Yay! Oh, Regina,
happy to
your
do
party going on. Well, you know, guys, I totally forgot to, I was so excited. I totally forgot to say open mic. So how about if we just kind of round robin? We'll start somewhere and then that person can just see if someone else wants to do it. So just raise your hand if you want to volunteer. Or
I really
jump
want to
in.
hear some of your poetry.
I'll go.
Okay. All right, awesome. I saw Judy. Okay, thank you. I saw Judy first, and I'm sure I missed somebody, but we'll start with you, Judy, and then if you don't mind picking somebody.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. All right, maybe I'll just be silly or slightly silly or half silly just because. So, and this is pretty short too, and we don't have so much time. So this is a little different for me. It was I think it was in Sheila and the Gig last issue. The title is Only with Dearest Friends. We're telling anecdotes about short-lived pets at a table in the bagel shop when the wife, after a bite of her everything bagel with lox, reveals as her husband stuffs his fingers in his ears that she keeps 3 dead parakeets in cardboard boxes in her fridge's freezer compartment. And he mutters, "You opened the door with a pack of chicken thighs in your hands and there's no place to put them." My husband, his face crumpling, stamps his foot on the floor, and all four of us guffaw until our wrinkles wrinkle and our stomachs ache, and I feel as unleashed as I did 7 decades past in 3rd grade, when some kid farted really loud just after the teacher turned to the blackboard saying, "Pay attention now," and the class, farter included, erupted in howls and shrieks. "Are you waiting for the resurrection?" I gasp, barely getting the words out, and we wail till tears sting our eyes. But I understand, because we simply can't imagine, after hopping out of our cages like Chirpy, Hooty, and Sweetie, after fluttering about, after whistling our happy tunes, after bonding again, being buried in dirt. Okay. So I saw some hands. Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
Me? Okay. I'm going to share the screen so you can get all the words of this somewhat funny poem about my friend, the mafia boss. Now, what am I doing here? Here we go. Okay, everybody see it? You can see it, right?
Yeah, I can see the whole page.
Okay. It's called New York Coliseum, 1979. Charlie goes for a walk. Freight is flying, moving out the National Computer Conference, the Big Apple. I'm in a truck myself, shoving, lifting, sweaty June day. My pretty young wife arrives between trailers, my 2-year-old son in a stroller, dressed to take us to visit her sweet old and very proper English granny, pleasant matriarch, for tea at the Jersey Shore. We see Willie on the dock, gruff Siciliano, clean plaid work shirt, black members only jacket, plaid driver's cap, on thick white hair, says, "Cal, that your boy?" I say yes and introduce him to Margaret and my firstborn. "Hey, Cal, can I take him for a walk?" Her eyes at me say, "Huh?" "Sure," I say. "Back in an hour," says Willie, my pal, steward of the biggest Teamster local at the New York Coliseum, principal axis of trade, both inside and outside of the USA, where everything we make is up for sale, even Willie's friendship, which comes to my non-union company at a high price. Yeah, it's an offer I can't refuse. At this place where corruption erupted even before the first wrecking ball laid waste the old apartments and stores at the foundation site, where soon after, they say, Willie, young hitman for the mob, got his job in a shootout on the roof. May the best paisan win. In this case, not the one who was skimming off the top, but a new hood who's 45 shots straight. The old cheat got a pair of new shoes and a wet home in the East River, and the price to back into a union dock went down. So that's good, right? Margaret's eyes follow speechlessly while Willie strolls off with our cherished son as his 5 bodyguards, all packing, fall in formation nonchalantly, unevenly grouped around the boss for his afternoon walk across Columbus Circle into Central Park. And her look says, "What the?" And I just say, for the next hour, our beloved son is the best protected kid in the whole wild city of New York.
Cal. Just a reminder, everybody check the chat section, and Cal, you get to choose the next person.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I bet Pat is going to read today, aren't you? Pat,
Chicken pot pie tonight.
Yes, I am.
are you reading?
I am reading. Thank you.
Selected.
This is a new poem, so I'll just throw this one out. For those of you who don't know, I'm sort of Brett's neighbor. We live in the same county. The volunteer training. At the disaster relief station, there's only one unbreakable rule. When someone starts talking, stop whatever you're doing and listen. Sounds simple enough. How many times have I told the same story? How many more do I need to tell it? Recalling details I discover anew each telling. How often have I listened to someone else's story? Similar tales of fear, loss, the alienation of sitting alone in a dark house with no water or lights, no way to reach beyond the walls you pray will hold and shelter you until the storm passes. How often have so many of us recounted the day Helene ravaged these mountains? Winds that uprooted 100-year-old oaks, rain that rerouted rivers and creeks, flooded homes and businesses, swept away the entire families. Listen, whenever anyone begins to talk, even if you've heard the story 100 times, 100. Listen, there's healing in the telling. And when the speaker stops talking in that silence, what then do you offer them? Everything. Give them anything they want. We know what happens to things that are held too tight.
Damn. Thank you, Pat. Again, I want to remind people, please check the chat section because we were lighting up. There's so much to that. So powerful. Oh, you get to pick the next person, Pat.
Oh, okay. Regina.
I don't know why I felt that. Pat was I felt that coming.
I was looking at you.
Well, thank you. It's good to be looked at. Okay, so this poem is for anybody who needs it. It's entitled, They Have Taken Nothing. They have taken nothing. The inconvenient who interfere, mind bound to oppress, not your skin, your smile, your hair, your bones, your heart, your beauty, nothing, despite the ripping, tearing, gnashing. For you will be blessed, anointed, reassembled in this land and new lands. They have taken nothing, not your mind, not your essence, not your gifts, not that which is seated in you, not that which springs up in your belly, not that which sings the song in your soul. They have taken nothing. The fields in which your thoughts walk, the suns that even your closed eyes see, the waters under which you swim, over which you glide, unfettered by monsters, minstrels, mistrials. The ancestors guide you. The Creator made you. God-born saves you. Spirit covers and reveals you and reveals to you. They have taken nothing. They have tricks with no power, shifting lights with no illumination, hidden hands, weak grasp, no understanding of your station. They have taken nothing. Only closed doors, piteous attempts at control. For your amulets are scattered strategically around the realm, around the world. Possessive earthen carnality is futile. They have taken nothing. For you are here, holding the keys to every possession and unrealized obsession that you have, that you are meant to have. Your riches stored, your then, now, and to be lives in readiness. They have taken nothing. You still have everything.
I'm going to need that on audio tape.
I got you.
Someone need to hear that. God, thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Choose the next person that could read. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Christy, I see you.
Okay. So the poem I picked for tonight is a really dark poem, but the reason why I decided to read it is because I was in such a dark place when I wrote it. And when I read it now, it makes me happy because that's not where I am today. So this is in my chapbook through Finishing Line Press titled Finding Her. And this is called For the Misguided Gardener Who Would Be Culled by Her Own Brown Thumb. Sitting at the start of a sandy path, flanked by lush greenery, I hear your fingers digging as I listen to you pray to a God you've said you don't believe in, for a sinkhole deep enough to stop a heart at its core. My screams reverberate, wet with marrow. I am still here as ripe red roses bloom out of my chest, climb skyward arms, and anchor themselves to extended legs. My being is now a pergola built to bear the brunt of you. I watch the earth open up and swallow you whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Check the chat section, Chrissy. Pick the next person.
Shamala.
I love that these are all poems with so much strength in them. And yours especially, Regina. 10 things to do when you misplace your country. 1, phone a friend. It works on TV quiz shows. 2, drink wine, but not more than a couple of ounces. You already have a shock hangover. 3, I don't know, make a list. 4, collect documents, vaccinations, puppies, children, medicines, emergency rations, batteries, hope. 5, do some Swedish death cleaning. Something did die. Also, the people who need the stuff you don't use need it more now. Everybody's going to need more, except the people who have too much. 6, move your body that may freeze in shock. Shake and shimmy, even if it's badly. You are not meant to be a sad sack of unhappy hormones. 7, make a list. Make a list of lists. All the doings still need to be done. 8, be angry or sad or feel mean. Just be careful who you hit with it. This is a good time to knead dough or make pastry. And look, it's almost Thanksgiving. 9, be thankful. Really, make another list. You'll see there's reasons enough. You can be mad and sad and happy and grateful and bitterly disappointed all at the same time. You contain multitudes. And if you don't, you know multitudes. 10, stand together with your multitudes. Stand behind those who know what to do because they've already been doing it. 11, bonus, America is still yours. Make pie, eat pie, give pie to other people. There's pie enough to go around. If there isn't, make more pie.
Gosh, that is powerful and just thank you. Perfect. Yeah, and again, I want to remind people, look at the chat section because yeah, just love. I know I want it to go out right now. You can pick the next person, Shamala.
Sorry, Ed?
We can't hear you, Ed. You unmuted and it's still muted. Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you did it. Good job fixing it.
Okay, I don't have a poem, but I have really enjoyed what I have heard. I took a physics class one time which had a lot of math. I did not like math. Sorry, Brett. Math and I did not agree. Love the life sciences, but I had to take this physics course, and we were at the part of the course where we were doing problems with convex and concave mirrors. And it occurred to us one day that if you were standing with a convex mirror on one side and a concave mirror on the other side, you could see into the past to infinity and into the future to infinity. And I have always thought that that was a really wonderful place to be. We should all have those mirrors.
Yeah, Britt just wrote, write that poem, Ed, write that poem. Center us between those
wonderful
two.
poetry tonight.
Yeah.
You guys are all amazing. So keep writing.
Thank you. And I'm just glad you're here. Do you want to pick somebody, Ed? Who would like to read?
Who hasn't read?
Cindy hasn't yet.
Cindy, let's hear it.
Thank you, and thank you for that story. Shimala, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, mentioned I contain multitudes, and that kind of dovetails into what I was going to read, which is a one-liner. It's only one line. I always say it's for people with, short attention spans like me. And it's not about math, but it does have a numeral in the title. So that's my ode to Britt. It's called Cliff Notes for Whitman's Song of Myself, or How to Pare Down 52 Stanzas into One. Grass, workmen, equality, yorp, 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 boot soles. Any questions?
Cindy, I adore you. Oh, that title too. Oh, it's so good. See, this is why I love our open mics, because it's just a collection of like amazing human beings jumping in there. And Zach said that he would like to read a poem too. So Zach, you could, if you want to unmute, I think you're our last reader.
Oh, it's been a great night. Thank you, everyone. It's all good writing. I think I have a poem. I do have one. I didn't know where to start. Woke up 5 a.m. still dark. Couldn't find TV remote. Should probably stay awake. Daycare, drop off, work today. Maybe breakfast. Leftover cold spaghetti eating at a counter. Empty bottle of motion. Quietly placed in trash can. Check cabinet. Has to be another. Just 1, 2, 3 drinks is too many, right? Daughters be awake soon. I play a game, bet which footsteps are whose. Sometimes I miss them at night. Just want to see them. Hug, talk, dance, kitchen. It's always waffles or pancakes when asked what they want for breakfast. Sorry, Alan Otter. Daddy has to go. We need money, insurance, roof, gas. Help Daddy get to work. Please, please. Little girls, you can buy a new video game as soon as we get home. Home. Where we live. Middle of the street. Always tell girls, wave at nice people you meet. Judy, neighbor on one side, son died, a fentanyl overdose. No one called the ambulance. So-called friends watched him die alone. She is sweet, brings girls treats, Present, stuffed bear, little owl has little boyfriend across street. Cute Micah, only 4, but I keep an eye on you. Last I heard, dad was on Grinder. Wife didn't know. Breakfast, we have oatmeal. Blueberries, always ask for orange juice because orange juice is only for morning. Someone finished it in the night. Mixed, vodka, glass, ice. Transparent. Like how I lied, told neighbor's wife we gotta have a play date. It could be fun. Really, I want to see her again. Long black hair, I need a feminine touch. I'm sorry. We'll have more OJ tomorrow morning. Make a mental note. When I stop to get vodka, don't forget orange juice and baby wipes. Okay, girls. Hey, little girls. Let's go. Car, late, please. It's time to leave. Start 30 minutes early because both girls' transitions are heavy. On emotion. Hope they don't. Empty bottle emotion. In the car. We want Disney songs. Waiting on a miracle. Not this one, Dad. Damn, they know it's my favorite. Let it go. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small. Pull up. 1 more minute, Dad. Walk in. Oh no, I forgot the cash. And Margie, well, she wants to talk. This city, this place we live, not enough water, shortage, politics, gossip. Truly could care less. Promise I will bring money for the week, but late to work. Thankfully, remember, vodka and OJ. At least tomorrow I won't let my girls have a bad day. Wake up early. Pancakes and waffles, whipped cream, orange juice and milk, whatever they want. Give them everything. Because once you find out about calories, chocolate chip pancakes don't taste as good.
Thank you, Zach. I hope that you will look at the chat section because there's a lot of comments for you. Glad you were here. Yeah. Zach put in, if you want to follow on Insta, you can get in touch with him there. Yeah, I know. What an awesome. This is our why our open mic is so powerful. It was all y'all's voices. Britt, thank you again for just being amazing. And I really do want to encourage Britt to take a class. I'm gonna think about that because I would love to do something with that. Thank you everybody for being here, and I hope to see you next week.
Night, everybody.
You guys.
I'm gonna read a poem like please read.
Y'all are nice. Okay, I just didn't want to run over because I know everybody, you've taken good time out, but I'll
We're
read
here,
a tiny
we're
one.
happy.
Oh, y'all are nice. Okay, I'll read a little one. I did have one that I was thinking about. It's called EEG, and in case you don't know, that's to chart the brain waves. Electroencephalogram is what it is. A nurse attaches electrodes to my child's scalp, wraps gauze around their head, wires snake past shoulders to the recorder clipped at their hip. The nurse says, just live per usual the next 24 hours. When we return, the doctor says my child's brain has unstoppable surges of electrical activity, rapid, continuous spikes and varied waves, a wild landscape of activity like a seismograph, I think. While the nurse unwinds gauze, my child jokes, I'm a visitor to this planet, and this is how you treat me? Within 0.4 of a second, the brain can tell the body to laugh.
Wow.
Thanks, guys.
Wow.
Probably should have shown that because it's a visual one as well with how her brain. Oh, thank you, Britt. There is a little bit of math, but I had to look it up because I didn't know it. Yeah. And that is little, yeah, thank you guys for letting me read that one for my guest. Be well. And if you're not feeling well, listen to Regina's poem. Come back to us. Find some community like us. Stay close to the people that you can trust and be real with. Thank you for being my community. Okay.